G'day and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 97, and on today's show we're talking about Companion Buddy, which is a wireless tally for production using Companion as the background source of that. So we're going to take a look at what it is and how to set it up, get the Wi-Fi connected, how to power it, and then also we'll just go through some of the Companion buttons that you might want to build behind it, because what makes this so powerful is Companion on the back end means that there's hundreds of pieces of equipment that you can connect to basically get a feedback state from it. So if you think about this, it could be something where you just manually turn a button on or off if you wanted to, reach out to a producer. But more powerfully, you probably want to automate it with something like triggers, so that if your streaming device is on air, you could have this as a sort of red light showing everyone that you're on air and not to disturb you. Or this could sit on top of a camera and just be powered off like a USB power bank or something like that, so you're completely mobile with no actual physical connection. And then that could be a tally light for camera one. Every time you cut to it, it's going to go red. And I'm also going to show you the way in which I've been using this in my studio. If I can jump over to this shot here, you'll see my teleprompter here. Above it, I have over here another Companion Buddy plugged in here, and it's a solid red at the moment, which is good because that means that everything is going according to plan. But if something wasn't, if the encoder had a problem, if YouTube was getting poor quality video, or if I wasn't live, or if I wasn't recording a backup of that, then that light would be flashing red and yellow, and it's in my line of sight. And that's really great for someone like myself who is presenting, but also doing the back end of all the technical things. So hopefully you'll get a lot out of that today. If you are new here, we do a lot of looking into live production and live streaming, particularly around Companion and how to automate things. So drop your questions in the chat, and we'd love to answer them as we go along. I've just got back from Antigua, so hopefully I'm looking a little more bronzed. Had time with Coco down the beach for 5 days. I think I actually got a couple of scratches from her as well. But beautiful water and temperature, and was very lucky to get out of New York's winter for a little bit of family time down the beach. But we're also glad to be back in New York doing some live streaming with you, and on today's show particularly talking about Companion Buddy. All right, so let's kick off and take a look at what is Companion Buddy. It's a flexible tally light for production, and it's basically LED lights, RGB, so you can make any color, and it's Wi-Fi controlled and powered by a 5-volt USB-C connection. So it's very flexible, and like I was saying, it could be for something on the camera if you wanted to have a tally light on a camera, but there's so many more use cases that you could use this for. Essentially, when you bring it over to something like a Stream Deck, you want to be able to turn this on and off. I have been having a few problems here. I thought this might happen live. I'll wait for that to turn off. You do need to assign an IP address to it, and my network is, a matter of moving all around. So hopefully that will, there we go. It shouldn't have that latency. It should have much more faster latency than that. But you can see I have had a few issues with that. I don't think that's necessarily Companion Buddy's fault. I think it's probably more my network having a ton of IP addresses that are pre-assigned, and I'm trying to figure that one out. But something to keep in mind. All right, so let's take a look at, oh, I did jump ahead here. Let me go to, where am I? Over here. So this is an idea of how you could use it in production. It could be on a camera to signal to either a camera person or to talent that you're on air. And if you go to companionbuddy.io, I do have an affiliate code which will get you 15% off with DJF15. So DJF15 will get you 15% off the order. And also if you use the coupon code free shipping, you can bring them down to 37.39 for that. So it's a pretty good deal to be able to grab these until the 1st of March. All right, let's take a look at how we're going to go about connecting this and setting this up, the Wi-Fi connection and the power that you will need. On the back of the buddy, if I come down to here, I've put a little bit of tape so I can remember which one's which. But it's basically a 3D plastic printed device. You can actually unscrew it like that, and you'll have, it's kind of what it looks like on the inside there, and still turning on and off in my network. And so you could potentially put on different caps, I guess. All right, so that's that. So on the back is a tiny little pinhole, and you will use a paper clip to press this for a couple of seconds, and it'll turn into a spinning green mode. From there, you'll be able to go to your, where are we, over here. You'll be able to go to your, your network router, either on a computer or on your phone, find Companion Buddy Setup, and then join the network of the Companion Buddy. And that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the password, just to sort of get into it. And then you'll come into this sort of web browser here, either on your computer or phone, and you're going to be putting in your Wi-Fi network name, the password for the Wi-Fi network, and then the Companion IP address. So just bear in mind that if you're someone who changes the address of that frequently, you're going to have to repair this, because the Companion IP address is going to be sort of stamped into the Companion Buddy. So for example, my network address here is 192.168.7.11. So that is now my sort of Companion server, and that's not changing. So for me, that's really handy. And particularly if you're going on different jobs, you probably want to take a router with you, so that all this is sort of pre-configured and you're not connecting things in the field. But if you do want to move them between networks, you got to go through that setup process again. Let me just hide this one, and you can leave the default Companion satellite port and hit save. Also in here is where you would do the firmware update. I think there's a new one coming out soon, so you can connect over Wi-Fi, have a file pre-downloaded, and upload it to the device once you're connected locally, and make the update there. So that's how you update the firmware over Wi-Fi. There's no actual sort of USB connection on this. The USB is just for the power. So that is, I see great ID says, let your nerd be heard. Master Mighty Waffle Pants 9410. So every time you sort of reboot this, and if you hold down the device, I was saying here, if you hold down this pin for more than, I think it's 7 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, it'll flash white, and that'll be actually like hard rebooting the device. And every time you do that, it will reassign the name. So at the moment, I've got Master Mighty Waffle Pants. I think that was a previous one, because this is a screenshot just for getting in and out in this tutorial. Once you've got that, that ID will appear in Companion. So if you go into Surfaces tab, you will see they have these names. So I've given them name Buddy 1 and Buddy 2. I've got to work out this, like I was saying, I'm for some reason, and I think this is my network, and I'm sort of moving IP addresses around with the transition that I did of moving all of my Companion over to a Mac Mini M4 Pro. So it seems like something's interfering with the Buddy 2 IP address, but I haven't had time to troubleshoot that. I think what would be really nice is, and maybe this could be a firmware update, is on that back end that we saw here, is if you could also sort of set the IP address of this device, so you could sort of do a manual set of the device rather than having to So do DHCP. Okay, so I'm just going to use buddy1 because that seems to be a little more reliable at the moment. It's basically turning up as a surface in Companion. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of other surfaces. A bunch of these are emulators. I'm running my 2 Stream Decks here actually via Stream Deck satellite. So on my computer on my desk here, this is where I have these 2 Stream Decks connected to this computer, and then over the network, that's how I'm connecting back to the rack. So that's what you're seeing when you see these satellite Stream Decks. And so Buddy, I like calling it Buddy. Buddy is basically a Stream Deck, not Stream Deck, it's basically a companion satellite. So if you click on settings, you will see it has the same menu layout as a Stream Deck would have. So rather than a Stream Deck having 32 buttons and a sort of LCD screen, just think of Companion. I can bring my table around here. Companion Buddy, a little Firefly, is basically a Stream Deck with 1 button that does colors and no, other sort of text on it. So just set it to the page that you want. So I have, for mine, directed it to page 99 on the menu, and then you can also set the horizontal and vertical offset. By default, it'll be 0, so it'll just be that top left button, but you can offset that in the grid to target different buttons. And it is recommended to set the brightness to 50%. If you're in really hot environments, you might burn it out, apparently. That's basically how you would assign that button to somewhere in your grid. So if I come into page 99, you can see I've got Buddy here. Buddy1 is on and doing his job and being reliable. Buddy2, my demo one, is not being as reliable. And I've actually built this so that I can sort of turn this off and on, this is the one I'll get into in the end. And then Buddy2 I've directed at this button here, which should be turning this on and off, but it's giving me grief. Maybe I'll just disconnect it and reconnect. When you reconnect it, it'll be flashing blue, and it should hopefully connect. And in a second, should be somewhere in the network. Trying to find that. Let me see. Takes a little while to come in. Okay, it'll come there eventually. I'll just leave that one sitting there, Buddy. Come on, Buddy, you can do it. If not, I'll have to use Buddy1. Buddy2 is being problematic. I just wanted Buddy 2 because I can put it on the desk, and anyway, I'll just put that down there. And we can go through some of the buttons, but that's basically how you would connect it to Companion, which brings us to our third part, which is about how do we go about building buttons to assign to Buddy. So there's a number of different use cases that you could have for this. And I'm just going to go through building different buttons and how we can connect them. I disconnect this one and start this one again, and hopefully that will connect. So the first one that I wanted to talk about was just a sort of on-off button. So that'd be like a manual button sort of turning on and off. It's not actually watching for any trigger. So we can do this via, if we come into here, so I'm just gonna, anything that's in here is gonna be my button. I'm gonna X and go over here. And so I'm gonna start a new button. By default, this progress button is on. So I can leave that on, and I'm just gonna change background color, set background color to black. And then I wanna do another step, and I'm gonna again do background color. And this one I'm gonna change to blue, just so we can see if it's actually working. So it's gonna automatically progress through these steps as I press this. So blue and off, blue and off. This one's really not playing it. This is playing up. I don't know why it's not connecting. Come on, buddy. All right, this should be appearing on the button here, which is not, but you get the idea. Connect. Let me just, I just can see some questions coming in here, so I might answer some of those. What do we got? And let me see, in your, let you know be heard, in your router, could you always set the IP address to be the same for the buddy device? Yes, you can, and I would recommend that. And I have done that, and it's working for buddy 1, and something in buddy 2 is going astray, so I need to troubleshoot that. I just didn't have enough time to do that. What else we got here? Companion Buddy, hello from Texas. Thank you for making this live stream. Great to have you here on the chat, and thanks for sending these through. I should mention that the Companion Buddy has sent me these Companion Buddies free of charge, but they haven't given me any, directives on what to say about it. And I'm doing my best to do a great demo of it. And apologies for the Wi-Fi network here is, I don't know, is something, like I said, I've got a ton of router changes that I'm making, and I think it's probably one of those, but the other one is working well. What else we got here? Is that blue circling? Yes, the blue circling, let's quick get back to this. Okay, it's connected again. There we go. Oh, I just did it, okay. I don't know what the latency is here. There we go. I'm sort of, anyway. I don't know what's going on with this unit. I'm gonna have to switch to my other one, which is much more usable at the moment. The blue spinning that you're seeing in the background is it in the trying to find the Wi-Fi network, is from what I understand, and it's weird because on my network here I'm also looking at Buddy 2 with the .92 extension, and it says it's connected, and it's not being connected. I don't know. It's something's not going on with that. So I'll try and address that, but we'll press on with creating different buttons. So that's an example of how you could create a button that basically turns on and off. So that's an example of how to turn the button on and off just by steps, but the problem with that is that's very local to that button, and you might want something more universal so that if you're pressing the button somewhere else in your profile, that it knows that. Otherwise, you're going to get this sort of double press where it's on and off state, and you've pressed it off again and then turn it on again. So that can get confusing, and the way around this is to create a button with variables. So what I want to show you now is how to create a button basically with an on-off state, but using variables. And then from there, we're going to sandwich in some other variable feedback. So we're going to create a button where we can basically sort of turn it on or off. When it's off, it's going to be no color. When it's on, we're going to have a sort of default background color. I like using yellow just to show me that it's on. And then from there will be the feedback state in terms of if we're on air and everything's good, and that's going to be a red. And then we'll show you how to do some other colors in terms of blinking and that kind of stuff. So let's start by making a variable button. I'm going to come back to my computer here, and we'll start from scratch again. All right, so we're going to create a new button. I'm going to turn off the progress, and I'm going to create a, sorry, before I do that, you do need to create a variable. So I've created variables that are Buddy 1 and Buddy 2. So under variables, you can see if I type in Buddy, wait, go back, variables, custom variables, filter. I'm just going to filter because I've got a lot of them. Buddy, so down here, you could create anything, any name you want. I'm just calling it Buddy 1 and Buddy 2 for the two different devices that I've got. And the value is going to be either on or off. So if I turn this one off, you'll see that Buddy 1 has turned, I'll get out of that field, off, and turn this one on, and that has turned on, like so. And it is in my field of view, it is working. This one's not actually the right one. Okay, I was gonna keep that one down there. So we've created our buddy one, or buddy, I wonder if I should go buddy two. Let's go with buddy two for now. All right, so I'm gonna go, the command here is step. So you're looking for step, set current step if variable meets condition. And then the variable that I wanna check is buddy. And you can see here, I'm gonna use buddy two. So if buddy two equals off, then we wanna go to step two. And then I can just duplicate this. And now I've got the same thing. So, and if buddy two equals on, then we wanna go to step three. And then the next thing to do is actually up here under rotary, we can turn on rotary. So we're gonna use the rotary actions to perform a conditional test. So we've tested if it's off or on, and then we're sending it to steps 2 or 3. So I'm gonna create 2 more steps, 1 and 2. Sometimes I will step away and come back because there was some bugs with this. Okay, and so now what I'm saying, you can see it here is selected on step 1. If I go to step 2, it's flashing, and I could say, now I've selected step 2. This is why we're creating it to be always on step 1. When Companion boots up, the variable is gonna start at step 1, so we just wanna start at step 1 to do this test. And then we've gone to step 2 if it's off, and step, where are we? Step 3 if it's on. And then we want to rotate right is what I'm going to use. And then we're going to go set step, set current step, and by default to 1. And then I'm going to put a delay in here of 1 millisecond and 2 milliseconds. So what this is doing is it's checking if it's on or off, and then it's either sending it to step 2 or 3, and then it's also rotating the imaginary button to perform the action that's at that step. And then it's also then after that sending it back to step 1 so that it's ready to go. And that's completing the circle of not having that double press if something's on in that state. So to complete this, we have to go to step 2. So we said step 2 is off, so we want to do the opposite of that. So we're going to set a rotate right, set the raw value of buddy 2 to on. So step 2, if it's off, then we're going to go here and set it on. And next one is set the raw value of buddy 2 to off. All right, make sure I did that, off, on, and so we've got our loop there. And then I can, in the text up here, I can actually put in, if I go dollars parentheses and buddy, you'll see I can pull up buddy 2, and it'll show me the value of that on that button. Is it on or off? And I can make the text a little more readable. And I can call this bud 2 or something, just so I remember. So we're testing buddy 2 on or off. So now if I shift click it, or I could do it over on the Stream Deck, I guess, I can basically turn buddy 2 on or off, and you can see my other feedback here is turning that on or off. So it means you can have multiple buttons with this test to turn that state on or off. All right, so it's going to be on, but we want to get a bit more colorful than that, because remember we're playing with colors and not necessarily text in terms of on or off. And so we're going to go back to feedbacks, and we're going to go variable check value, and I want to check the buddy 2, and if buddy equals on, then I want it to be red. And now I can duplicate this, and if it equals off, make it black. All right, so now we've got Buddy 2 and our button is working again because our network's come back online. Thank God. So Buddy 2 is on. There's not usually this much latency. I would blame that something in my settings. Off and on. Okay, so now that means I can elsewhere in my configuration turn this button on or off, and I don't actually have to press that button. But if I do press that button, the button knows what the current state is. So I've been using that. And oh, the other thing to remember too is a little bit like Photoshop layers of visibility. The layers on the bottom, it sort of uses the values of the last variable. So that's why I put this on at the top here. So it's going to go, you know, is it on, yes or no, make the background red, and then is it off, yes or no, make the background black. So once you start layering up different variables in between, and this is our next step, is we're going to sandwich some sort of custom variables that are just watching for state changes in equipment. That's where it's going to override that. So if I usually make this yellow actually. So there we go, make that yellow. Just, that's my preferred, just kind of like on state. So if it's on, then I know it's yellow, and if it's off, then it just turns off. And then I can use red as a color for whatever device. So let's start with, what's the next one I wanted to do? Buttons, press and Vespa, on air lights. Okay. So I'll come back to here. So the next one we're going to take a look at is how to do something like an on-air light, so that if you are on air, you can have this sitting there so that people know and they don't come and interrupt you while you're live streaming. So I'm going to grab a button that I have already built, a variable, this one, paste this one in here. And what we're looking at is a whole bunch of feedbacks within this. So remember, we just built Buddy 2, which has testing this on layer, and then it's got this off layer. My background color is actually purple now. I sort of was using purple for that one. And then if it's off, then it's going to be this background color of black. So I can turn that off and on. All right, that is working. All right, I'm going to start with, I've got a whole lot of things, tally program, off, and make sure these are all off. Okay, so imagine something like the ATEM Mini, because there's a bunch of variables that we can pull from this, including are we on air? So I want to know if I'm on air. Let me just make sure that I'm pressing the right variable here. Go turn this one on. Okay, that it's going to go red, off, and on. So you'll see this has gone red here. Again, my button is playing up, so not so good for the demo. But in terms of the companion button I'm talking about, when I went on air, this is lighting up on air. I'll just turn this off for now. So basically, I'm just going to make all these layers smaller. Super source. Back in here. So if I go to like ATEM streaming, so ATEM 3 streaming active running, we're looking at this feedback basically. So if it's streaming, we're going to make the background color red, and then I'm going to put that, I've got a bunch of things I'm going to show you through in here. Notice that all of these other feedbacks that I've got, they're all off at the moment, but I'm just putting them in there so I can get to them faster. But they're off. But the one that I am looking at is this active running. So I've got that one in here. For this demo, I'm just using the connecting state because I don't actually have this connected to anything. So you would really want it on streaming. So if you're streaming, then you would connect it to this, and you can see the background is red, and you could have a red light. I'm just using connecting because when I hit on air, it's going to be connecting and not doing that. But there we go. If I I've hit that, and that was a good demo, but didn't actually turn this one off. So purple is just showing me that it's on, and on air is showing me that it's on air. Wonderful demo, love that, okay. Excellent, so now I can turn this one off, and you can see here I'm not actually using the Stream Deck, I'm just doing other things in the system. So whether I'm using the actual A10 Mini Pro interface, or if I'm using the A10 Mini Pro software, this tally light knows whether it's streaming or not based on the feedback, not on me manually pressing that. All right, next button, let's take a look at, let me just pull back here and expand out that one. What was that one? So let's imagine we want to do a tally light, and we can do this in the ATEM. A lot of people use ATEMs, A10 Mini Pros, and you might have, say, 4 cameras, and maybe camera 1 is your talent, and every time you cut to camera 1, you want it to be on. It'll look a little bit like this. So just say I'm here presenting to the teleprompter, and you can see there's this tally light up here, and so it would be off, and then when we cut to camera 1, that would come on, so I know that I am on air. That's the general gist of that, but we don't want to be manually doing that. We want it to be automated, and we can do that through the feedback state. So that is, let me just slip this one down here. Let's move this one around. Make sure I've turned off my previous demonstration. Again, we can go back to this one. So in my feedbacks, again, I'm sandwiching between my on layer and my off layer, the actual feedback, because, where is it? ATEM camera. So I would type in like ATEM 3 is my ATEM, and I'm looking at tally program, and let me just expand that out. So I can actually just listen for whichever camera. So that could be camera 1, 2, 3, or 4 was like the computer, or it could be any other thing that I cut to, color bars, color, media player. But we can use camera 1 will be red when it's in the program. Let me see if I can get this one to work. All right, so it's green at the moment on my A10 Mini Pro, and if I cut, you can see that that's gone across to red. The colors actually look a lot better. It's in the studio than on. They don't show up so well on the camera. In real life, it looks really red. It's a bit washed out just because of the sort of exposure balance there. But remember, that is red. And if I cut back, you can see that's turned off to my base color of purple, but I could make that nothing. So again, let's look at the layers here. I'm going to turn off my, where is my tally program here? So I'm going to turn that one on, and I'm going to delete this one. So I've got my variables, expand that here. This was my on layer, setting it to purple. And then my off layer is setting it to black. And in between that is where I've placed this tally, looking for camera 1 as red. And so it's purple at the moment because it's not on camera 1. Come back to my shot here. But when I cut across, that's when I go to red, and I cut back and it goes off. So that's why the purple's not showing up, because this ATEM 3 streaming, sorry, not that one, get rid of that. Let me close that one down. The tally here is red, so that's overriding it. And then obviously this value here of being off is not current, so that's ignored. So that's kind of the layer of the color building that we're doing with the buttons. Hopefully that was good. Okay, I've got 2 more. The next one that we are going to take a look at is basically a mute microphone button. So again, I'm using the ATEM, but there are other audio pieces of equipment that can connect to the ATEM and can listen for sort of an on-off mute. So this could be useful for just confidence that if you want to cough or you want to say something off camera, you have a red light showing you that it is muted, and you know that you can speak without it going to air. So the one that I'm going to look at here is the audio mix option. Again, I'm using ATEM, like I said. Let me just turn this one off and hide that one away. So I'm just using ATEM Fairlight audio mix option, and you could use whatever input you have. Like it could be a actual camera input, or it could be the microphone, or in my case, I've got a Constellation 2ME, so that's got a TRS input, and I'm basically looking for the TRS stereo and when it's on or off. And so when I go, let me see if I can show you here. I've got a TRS button like completely separately to this that I use on my show. So if I get a dry throat, which sometimes happens, and I need to take a sip of water, then I can mute myself, and hopefully this one will go red. It didn't go red. It should have, wait. Oh, I didn't turn it on. It didn't turn on. Oh my God. Again, my network is playing up here. I would give it more credit than that because my other one's been problematic. But you'll see in my companion browser that button, here we go. And then I can, yeah. So that's good too, because maybe you don't have a button. Maybe it's an actual, technician who's backstage and they're muting the microphone. So you don't have controls of a button here. And so if you see that button, you know, okay, I'm off air, I'm at a commercial break, I'm whatever it is, and I'm clear to chat, and that red button is good to go. So that is another example of how you could use Companion, how you could use Companion Buddy to mute a microphone and give you a signal that you're off air. All right. Last of all, I wanted to show you my live streaming quality control alert, because this is the one that I was talking about. If I jump over to this shot here, that I have up here, when it's a solid red, I know everything's good. And when it's blinking, then something's not right. So if I, for example, was to mute my, to stop my recording, then you can see it's now flashing. So I didn't go off air, but my backup recording is stopped, and so the light is flashing, and I know that something's wrong and I need to take a look. So I'm going to turn that one back on. So now I'm recording again, and you can see that that light has gone good. So how did that work? This is where we have our more intense feedback. So I'm going to jump over to my super source. So again, I'm using this variable button and that sandwich of on and off, and then in between that, I have a sort of logic that I'm looking for in conjunction with another module in Companion. So if you go over to Connections and scroll down to, or go to Add Connection and type in Blink, you would add this generic button blinker. And so you can see down here, this is what I've got. There's nothing really to it. It's just internal. You're really just setting your blink rate. I'm setting it at 1/4 second here, so I get a fast blinking. Hit save, and then that is a parameter that you can use later on. Let's go back to buttons, and we're going to go to this one and feedbacks. And I'm just going to turn off my Fairlight, so none of these are taking effect. These are the other ones I was demoing, and we can turn off the ATEM. I was just going to show you this one in terms of the mute microphone. You can make it blink by grabbing the actual variable and setting it to equals off. Is the other way of doing that, or you could just use the one that's in the system. Okay, so what I'm using here is, and I'll turn this one on, okay, this should work. So I've turned that on, internal logic, I'm using a logic AND. So in the last couple of months, or maybe sometimes mid-year, last year, in Companion, there was this internal logic that was added into Companion. And so you would just go type in logic. So the logics that you can have are if a property is and, or, and or. And the one that I'm using is and. So I'm saying, you'll see here, test if multiple conditions are true. So I'm saying if all of these conditions are true, then it's going to blink. And if it's not true, then it's not going to blink. So the idea here is I want, if any one of these 4 variables are true, then it's going to blink. I don't want it to be like all of them have to be true, and any one of them could trigger this off. So what I'm looking for in my quality control button, 4 things. One is my web presenter streaming to YouTube? The second is YouTube getting a good signal, or is that like poor quality? Thirdly, is YouTube itself live? And fourthly, is my backup recording actually recording? And I showed you before there in terms of it flashing when I turned that off. And that's what I used to demonstrate, because I don't want to stop the web presenter, because obviously that would kill the show. But that's what I've got on my Buddy 1 that you can see down here. So when I've got that layer of feedback, so I could just turn off the button. So, because when I'm off air, it's going to blink, and I don't want that blinking all the time because that's annoying. So I've got this to only turn on when I'm doing my show. And that's what's great about the variables. So to bring, just before we start in terms of how this gets turned on, so I can either turn it on manually here on my page 99, so I could just turn it on, and now my Buddy 1 is on. Because remember we said when it's off, that's going to be the last feedback, and it's going to be black, so it's going to, everything before it is just going to be null and void, because the last parameter of is it off is true, and that would make it black. But it's not. So Buddy 1 is on, and that is red at the top of the chain. And then down the chain is going to be the flashing if things, if it's true that things have errors. And I turn this on. I don't actually turn this on now. I've got it as part of my run of show setup. So I'll briefly go through that. I have on, and I'm going to build this into future profiles here. I'm starting a sort of a start show button, and I've also got this auto start. So now what happens is at 3 minutes before I'm meant to go live, this auto start trigger over on triggers, auto start at 13:57 on a Thursday. If I've turned that on, so you'll see over on, where are we, show page here. I can sort of turn that trigger off or on. So I had it on, and that's what just started the show. So when the show started, I was just sitting here and watching it all sort of spin up. So auto start triggered this show start button, and the show start button has a bunch of things in it, including telling me that I'm in the show start state. And you'll see in here, I've got this Buddy 1. So this is now triggered to, it's turning on the Companion Buddy. So when I start a show, Companion Buddy is turned on by my show sequence. It does other things. I should do a different show on this because there's a lot in here, but it's basically setting the file name of the ATEM backup recording to the date and also the YouTube name. So it means when I have a when when I look at my hard drive, I can see the YouTube name rather than just like a bunch of numbers. I'm starting a Notion session to timestamp markers. I'm starting the web presenter, so that's my encoder. I'm going live on YouTube with a 20-second delay to allow it time to sort of spin up. ATEM2 is recording start or stop. YouTube, and actually this worked for me today, which was the button was flashing and I'm like, why is it still flashing? And it was because YouTube hadn't, sorry, my backup recording hadn't started, and it hadn't started because of these IP addresses that I'm figuring out in my router, meaning that Companion hadn't been able to connect to ATEM2 to start it, so it had missed this one. But because it had missed this, Companion Buddy was flashing, and I knew something was wrong, and I went and fixed it. So I was able to make sure I was recording this show. Then we have some other things like sending YouTube messages to live chat of where you're joining from and that kind of stuff. So back up here though is, so that's my sort of getting a show up and running, is like encoders and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But before that, I practiced the show using my run of show queue, and within my show start is this button where I'm pressing and releasing my pre-show, which is 9710, which is actually this button here. So I have my run of show sequence, which is like pre-show, first positions. I start the show, I have 3 parts. I say goodbye, and when I wrap up, the microphone gets cut. And under my pre-show, that's where I have all of the camera movements and the microphones on or off, or the ATEM switching and all that kind of stuff. So that's, there's 2 parts to this. One is the sort of the outbound encoding and YouTube settings that only happens once when I start the show. And separate to that is my run of show, which I can practice back and forth without going live and doing that. So that's how it's separated out. Okay, which brings me to Companion Buddy on page 99 and what it's looking for. Companion Buddy. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so going over to feedbacks. We've got our test to see if Companion Buddy is on. So if I turn this one off, then that would turn this one off. Let me go up to my shot page, just so you can see what I'm doing here. If I turn this off, that is going off there. Let's turn the button back on. Back to camera 1. No, back to SuperSource. Where was I? SuperSource. Okay. So I've got, it's on, but then what's going to take priority over this is this logic. Wait, is it OR? Okay, let me just go through Buddy 1 because that is, I thought it was AND. This is where it goes. Okay, it's OR, sorry. Okay, so down here under feedback, if you type in logic, I was looking for the OR state. So if any of these, if this or this or this are true, then it's going to flash, which is, so OR is on, yeah. Okay, so blink when variable matches value is what I've put in here, and I'm basically looking at the variables of ATEM record duration. So I'm saying if it equals 0, then flash, meaning if it's not recording, then the ATEM is going to be zeroed out, and I know that that's a problem. So anything but 0, and it's not going to flash. Also, the web presenter, did I jump one here? I did. Okay, so the variable YouTube unfinished health 1, if this is not equal to good, then it's going to flash. So it could be poor, or it could be no data, all that kind of stuff. If it's any of those other variables, it is not equal good, and therefore it's going to flash. The ATEM one that I showed you, the web presenter stream state, if that equals streaming, then, sorry, if it's not equal streaming, then it's going to flash. And if the YouTube unfinished state is not equal live, then it's going to flash. So these variables here, like unfinished state, if you want to know where to pull those from, you just go over to your variables tab, and you're going to have all of the different equipment. So you could be pulling from equipment. For example, the ATEM2, if I hit record duration here. So see, I'm using this variable, ATEM2 record duration, hours, minutes, seconds. And you can see I'm 11 minutes into my new recording. This does not equal 0, and therefore it's not going to flash. If I'd stopped recording, this variable would go back to 0 and it would start flashing. And then on the YouTube module that I have somewhere, YouTube. Okay, these are the variables that we can have there. I'm using indexes, so basically the index 0 of the unfinished or else the planned broadcast is what would be the variables that show up here. That could be, it's just by date and time order, so whatever is the most recent YouTube stream that you're working on. So this is episode 97 here. And you can see this is the feedback down here is what is currently present. So the ones I pulled from is the broadcast state. So I sort of copied that, and I'm saying if that does not equal live, then we want it to flash. Or if this health variable here, you can just click on it and it will copy it, so you can paste it across. If the health of the stream is not good, then it'll flash. And they're the variables that I'm bringing back into the buttons, buddy 1, feedbacks, and then I'm actually like typing in live. And these are case sensitive too, so if I like delete that, you can see it's flashing. So you do need to know the exact variables that you're putting in here. So it's not live with a capital L, it's actually live with a, with a lowercase l, it's live with a capital L. And you can see, you know, same thing here. If it wasn't good, then it would be flashing. You can always invert something. Oops, I gotta set this one back. I'm like, why is it still flashing? Capital G, and we're all good. You can always test something by sort of inverting it there and seeing if that works or not. So you can see inverting, yes, it is doing the thing and it's going yellow. And then basically I've just got down here at the bottom of this logic, where are we? LogicOR, this thing here, is yellow. And so remember my base color was red to be like I'm on. And then if there is an error, it's going to show up in this check of the 4 different variables, and it's going to blink the yellow color at the speed that we set in the connections tab in the blinking at 250 milliseconds, but you could change that to 1 second if you want. I just wanted something fast that would grab my attention. So that is how you would go about sort of building a more complex button if you were looking for something to sort of give you control of your feedback. All right, let's take a look at some questions here. Or we'll sort of work backwards here. I left my iPad at home, so I'm on my phone here. Bit of a chat about what is going on with that. Let me pull up a bigger screen so I can see this better. All right, let you know be heard from Phoenix. Great to have you here. And we've got Nico from the Netherlands. Good to have you here as well. And Joe from Chicago. And Eddie04TV. G'day, good to see you as well. Panama City, great to have you here too. Let me see. Okay, let you know be heard says, wow, that's a lot of Companion connections. What type of machine are you running Companion on? I haven't had a problem with, I've never noticed a problem with Companion itself dropping things or having problems. I think the problems I was having today with the Companion Buddy were specifically, I don't know, like that number in my router and if it was reserved for something else. And I got to look into that. I'm not quite sure what that was. I'm running, I wonder if I can, what can I show you? I'm running a M4 Mac Mini. What can I show you? I can show you this. I'm running an M4 Mini headless. So I used to have my M1 Max laptop, whatever, which I still have, and it's sitting just under here on a shelf, and then I've got a Thunderbolt port, and it's running the screens, and this is what I do sort of editing on, and that used to run Companion as well as a bunch of other applications and all that kind of stuff. But more recently, I have bought the M4 Mac Mini Pro. I got the Pro partly because I just wanted to do a lot of video processing on it. And I run that in a headless manner, so it's back there in the rack, has no mouse or screen. I mean, I guess it sort of has a screen because I can see it on the multi-view, but I don't really use it for that. When I want to do something on the computer, I can basically just pull it up in this screen sharing. So, you know, I can put that anywhere here, and I can also VPN in from home to the studio and do things in the studio through screen sharing. So it's a really neat app. If you haven't checked it out, it comes on every Mac. It's already inbuilt. So basically under here, screen sharing, you'll come up with this kind of thing. And you can basically connect to it on the network. So my Mac Mini is at 192.168.7.11. So that's my Mini. And that's now my Companion server, which is running everything. And I wanted that just so I could offload a lot of things from my laptop, so it's always on. It also means I can always be at home and just sort of jump back into the studio, and I'm actually making changes to the show rather than sort of like everything's connected and already running rather than having to sort of just troubleshoot it. All right, done. So you would just connect on that, and then it'll open up a desktop view. And I'm running, if I need to, I'm running VLC. Where are we? VLC, which I used to run the music for the show on that, but I've just put on the hyperdeck, so it's playing off the hyperdeck, which is one less thing to think about. But VLC's there if I needed to play a video back off this screen. Light key is what is doing the light effects here. So that's neat. I've done some videos on this, I think last year, which go into this in a lot of detail, but what's neat here is this application is just open and running on the Mac Mini, and then I've got an ArtNet Ethernet node that is PoE, so that's sitting in my switch, in my rack as well. And I don't actually have to, I'm not doing anything in this, so it's just sitting remotely. If I need to make changes, I can come in here through the screen sharing. But all my controls for the lighting are built into the run of show, so I'm not actually controlling the lights manually, but I can also control the lights manually on the Stream Deck at the desk here across the network. So that's pretty handy. And then of course I've got, where's my mouse gone? Here we go. H2R Graphics is running this. This has been really neat too, because it's on the network, and I can just, like, on any web browser, for example, here, I can sort of pull up the comments. So this is on my local computer, and then I can trigger them from here or on my phone. I have the web browser up on that as well. So got H2R Graphics on the Mac Mini as well, and Social Stream Ninja is what I'm running to pull the comments in from YouTube and put them into H2R, which then goes up online. That's mostly what I'm running that for. And then I'm also running Blackmagic Proxy Generator. I'm actually going through, and I'll do a video on this once I've finished it, but I'm compressing all of my video, because I've got, like, I don't know, 200 terabytes of video from 20 years. And, you know, in the last 5 or 10 years, video rates get bigger and bigger and bigger, particularly like doing a live show like this on the ATEM. I'm generating up to 250 gig for a 1-hour live stream, and I was just kind of archiving it, and it's dumb. So I'm using the Mac Mini to just go through, and I'm making 10-bit H.265 proxies, and I'm basically compressing at a sort of 10-to-1 ratio. So instead of 5 terabytes on a hard drive, I now have 500 gig, that kind of thing. So that's been mostly good. The Blackmagic proxy generators, like, it crashes sometimes, I've found, and also I just wish it had a ton more variable, like, wish you could change which settings you want. Fortunately, the H.265 10-bit has been pretty good for most things that I'm doing, but it'd be nice if I could have more control over just setting the bit rate and the resolution and that kind of stuff. That's basically what I'm running the Mac Mini for, and then you'll see up somewhere here. Where is it? Up here, this is where Companion's also running in the background and sort of just doing its thing. But yeah, that's what I'm using that for. Okay, a lot of chat going on here. Oh, what do we got? Circling. Any suggestions making these PoE and connected through RJ45? I guess that, you know, some people might like that, and there's probably a use case for that. I would imagine the Wi-Fi aspect of it is if you're trying to put on a camera, it's the ease of use of cameras moving around or not having to run cable to it. So I'd say the Wi-Fi is really useful as long as you control your Wi-Fi parameters, like I was having problems today, and like, you know, your environment, and, you know, if you can control those parameters, then Wi-Fi seems good and responsive. But yeah, I could imagine there's some people who just want to, like, hardwire something and have that light, you know, in a studio. Like, for example, if you had an on-air box and you just want that in the top of the studio, I mean, there's other ways you could do that just through, you know, Wi-Fi plugs and stuff if you wanted to do that through Companion. But what's neat about the Companion Buddy setup is it's just its size. It's just, like, super easy to get onto things. Like, let me see if I can go across here. I've been, oh, too far. Let's come back here. When I'm not doing a demo, I've got a USB-C connection up here, and so that'll be sitting up there. So that's normally where I've just had that sitting with a bit of double-sided dual lock M3 tape. And we didn't talk about mounting options, but it's super light, so you can basically stick some Velcro on it onto a camera, or you could put it onto a cold shoe if you wanted to. I know there's other options coming out which are going to have a 1/4-20 screw in the back of it. But I quite like just how flat and compact it is, and I've been mounting it actually via the USB-C cable itself, and then it'll just sort of sit up like that above a screen like I've got on my teleprompter up here. All right, what else have we got? Okay, I'm just catching up on your comments here, and it seems like you've started, Companion Buddy has started working on a PoE version. It'll have to be bigger because probably bigger chipset, and sorry, I seem to have so much trouble with the Wi-Fi. When the blue spinning stops like that, it's connected, but not enough bandwidth to open the socket to Companion, I think. It's interesting. It's funny because I do see it on my I see it on my router page over here, and it says it's been connected for 47 minutes and there's no problem with it. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, it seems to be problematic. I'll see if I can get that fixed and sort of updated there. And okay, just catching up with the comments here. I need to do it in time. See if there's any more questions in here. Wi-Fi's connection strong enough. I don't think it's the Wi-Fi connection because I'm literally like 4 feet, 5 feet from the router here, and there's line of sight. So that should be fine. I don't know. I'm using a Unify, what do you call it? Dream router. So I mean, it should be enough to power this, but I think I need to clear out some of my router settings. What else we got? Let me know if you heard. There's probably some good feedback here. So that doesn't evaluate all the OR. I wonder if you could do a logic AND for the on, and then have the logic OR with the AND, and then you evaluate the OR and the buddy's on. This stuff gets so confusing. I gotta tell you, I've had to do to get that what I showed you with that the live streaming quality control flashing. I had to do a whole like test live stream because you have to get the exact parameters right. Like, you know, it has to be good with a capital G. It can't be lowercase good. So definitely testing the use case of that, because sometimes you can think you've got it right and you're using the wrong logic. So yeah, I get that. If I'm running it on M4, there's no way that's computer's fault. Yeah, I think my computer is up to spec there. I'll take a look at the log in Companion. And I think there was one other question here. Oh, here's some good feedback here with powering it is 0.3 to 1 watt. It would last like 45 minutes on a CR battery. Interesting. So it doesn't use very much power at all, but I quite like the fact that there's no battery in there. It means you can just you plug it into a power source of like a power bank or something, and you know it's just going to run for a long time. So yeah, no battery in the actual device itself, but I don't see that as a problem, because I feel like so many camera rigs these days have a sort of USB port somewhere that can give plenty of power to help that run. Just trying to pull out questions here. I think there was this one. What's included in the buddy purchase? Got to get cables separately. Yeah, so come back to this one. In here, you're basically just getting the Companion buddy. It'll probably look like, here's the case that it came in for me. So it came in a little pouch, and then there were some, you know, just that kind of little clear bag. So very minimalist. And there's some QR codes for an instruction of how you can get started. You can scan that. So that's what it comes with. And so you will need your own USB-C cable and some sort of power source to run it. And you'll need a computer to configure it. And you'll need a router to run it. And you'll need Companion to run the back end of it. And just to wrap up today, Companion Buddy kindly gave me a discount code for the next month. So if you do go to Companion Buddy, let me go over here, companionbuddy.io, and use the discount code DJF15, DJF15, you'll get 15% off your order. And if you use the coupon code free shipping, you'll also get free shipping. So that brings it down to about $37 per buddy. So if you do want to grab that, then that's a great coupon code to get a discount off that. All right. Hopefully that gave you an idea of what Companion Buddy can do, and it'd be great to see how you use that in your production workflow. If you do, let me know in the comments, and it'd be great to hear more feedback of how you've incorporated Companion Buddy into your setup. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you then. Bye.